On the east bank of the Nile, in the heart of an ancient city, a great temple rises out of the darkness in a blaze of golden light. Towering stone gateways, rows of giant columns, and colossal seated kings stand where they have stood for more than 3,000 years, mirrored in the slow river beside them. By day it is a honey-colored monument baking in the desert sun, and by night it becomes a city of light on the water. Welcome to the Temple of Luxor. We are on the east bank of the Nile, in the heart of modern Luxor, a city built upon the ruins of ancient Thebes. For much of Egypt's history, Thebes was its greatest capital, a place of palaces and temples strung along the river. Here, at the center of it all, the Temple of Luxor stands beside the water, once linked by a long sacred road to the vast temples of Karnak a little to the north. This was the spiritual heart of a kingdom. Before us lies a monument born of a golden age. Thebes rose to greatness as the home city of the god Amen, and its rulers poured the wealth of an empire into stone along these banks. The Nile was its lifeline and its highway, and temples like this one were built to face the river, so that gods and kings could travel between them by boat. To stand here is to stand at the meeting point of water, city, and the divine, where ancient Egypt honored its own power. Unlike most Egyptian temples, this one was not raised to a single god alone. Luxor Temple was devoted above all to the renewal of kingship itself, and to the god Amen in his royal aspect. Here the living pharaoh was joined to the divine, his right to rule renewed year after year in sacred ceremony. The carvings on these walls speak less of one deity than of an idea, that the king and the gods were bound together, and that from this place the power to rule was made new. The temple we see began with a single great vision. Around 1400 years before the Common Era, the pharaoh Amenhotep III of the 18th dynasty raised the core of this sanctuary, an elegant complex of courts and halls at the height of Egypt's wealth. Before us opens his sun court, a wide open square once ringed by graceful columns bundled like papyrus stalks. It is a masterpiece of proportion and calm, the serene heart from which the whole temple would later grow. Generations later, a mightier king left his mark. Ramesses II of the 19th dynasty greatly enlarged the temple, and it was he who raised the massive entrance pylon that still guards the front today. This great gateway of sloping stone walls, carved with scenes of the king in battle, announced his glory to all who approached. Before it stood his monuments, so that every visitor entered the sacred precinct through a display of royal might. Guarding that entrance sit the Colossi. Ramesses set enormous seated statues of himself before the pylon, giant figures of a crowned king with hands resting on his knees, gazing calmly out over the ages. Carved from single blocks of stone and standing many times the height of a person, they were meant to be eternal, a ruler forever enthroned at the door of the gods. Even now, worn by time, they hold their silent watch over all who come. Beside the colossi once rose a matched pair of obelisks. Ramesses set two tall shafts of pink granite before the pylon, their tips once sheathed to catch the sun. One of them still stands here today, pointing at the sky as it has for millennia. Its twin, however, is far away. In the 1800s it was given to France, and it now stands in the Place de la Concorde in Paris, so that this single temple reaches, in a way, from the banks of the Nile into the heart of Europe. Deeper within rises one of the temple's great glories. A grand colonnade of towering columns marches through the heart of the sanctuary, a double row of immense stone pillars with capitals shaped like open papyrus flowers. Beneath them the visitor is dwarfed, the sky reduced to a bright ribbon far overhead. This soaring corridor once formed the ceremonial spine of the temple, a passage of shadow and light built to make mortals feel the presence of something vast. Beyond the temple runs an ancient road. Stretching away toward Karnak, an avenue once lined with hundreds of sphinxes connected the two great sanctuaries across the ancient city. These crouching stone figures faced one another in long ranks along the sacred way, a processional path nearly 2 miles in length. To follow it in the mind is to see how Luxor and Karnak were not two temples but two ends of a single holy landscape, joined by this remarkable road of stone. Along that avenue, once a year, the gods came to visit. During the Great Opet Festival, the sacred images of Amen and his family were carried in solemn procession from Karnak to Luxor Temple, borne in gilded boats upon the shoulders of priests. For days the city celebrated as the divine came home to be renewed, and with them, the kingship of the pharaoh. This temple was the destination of that journey, the place where heaven and rule were made new each year. The centuries did not leave the temple untouched. Long after the pharaohs, a Roman legion made its camp within these walls, painting its own images over the ancient carvings and raising a shrine to its emperors. Later still, early Christians worshipped among the old columns and turned parts of the sanctuary into a church. Each age added its own layer to the stone, so that to read these walls is to read the passing of empires, one faith and one power giving way to the next. And the layers rise higher still. In medieval times, when much of the temple lay buried under centuries of sand, a mosque was built upon the ruins, dedicated to a local holy man. As the ancient stones were later dug free below it, the Abu Hageg Mosque was left standing high on the old walls, and it remains in use to this day. Here, a living place of worship sits directly atop an ancient one, a single view holding thousands of years of unbroken devotion. By the light of day, the temple reveals its true scale. The great courts open to the desert sky, and the sun rakes across walls covered in carved processions, gods and kings, throwing every figure into sharp relief. The sandstone glows warm and honey gold, and the shadows of the tall columns stretch long across the paving. In daylight, this is a place of quiet immensity, an open-air gallery of an entire civilization written in stone. And when the sun goes down, the temple is transformed. Floodlights wash the Great Pylon, the Colossi, and the columns in pools of gold, and the carvings deepen into dramatic shadow. The reflection of the lit temple shimmers on the dark Nile, and the ancient stone seems to glow from within. Here stands one of the oldest monuments on Earth, alive again in the night, drawing the eye across 3,000 years as easily as across the river. A temple of kings on the bank of the Nile, an obelisk with a twin in Paris, a great colonnade, an avenue of sphinxes, and a mosque standing watch above it all. Few places on Earth hold so many ages in a single view, or wear their long history so beautifully by day and by night. Thank you for watching. Follow for more interesting people, places, and things we cover on the channel.